I'm running with the theory. You can take it or leave it. There are no white people per se. There are no white people. Let's just say there are no white people. There are some Anunnaki that looks black, and there's some that has no pigmentation. There are people that seem to either want to bring back experimentalism to permeate society, or want to manipulate cortisol, right? The Anunnaki prefers to resonate with white people, which is a total hoax. That some of them like to bring back experimentalism. Those are what we would consider to be racist whites, but they're under an Anunnaki mind control. There are some blacks who can manipulate cortisol, and they can kill white people. Paulo Mayombe and that shit was killing white people. They were programming these lightning bolts. They were like ladders, and they would throw lightning. That would like cause a cortisol spike and kill a white person, like what you would consider a white person. And that's Anunnakis too. That's also Anunnaki, because the government practices Paulo Mayombe. They got into Santeria before they got into Paulo Mayombe. They like to push out there the Wicca, because now you're talking about opening portals, like open a portal, like they tried to with the you should watch Adult Swim, because a lot of the shit you can glean off of Adult Swim. You know how they say there's a little bit of truth in a joke in comedy. There's a little truth in humor. Why do you think that they hold up satire in FCC courts and to define it? They look at certain platforms, like these certain people that in the celebrity that the aristocracy would like to kind of shave them off, you know what I mean? Like, but then they changed their mind and they're well, I won't get to that. Manipulating cortisol. See, like I think they could learn each other's trick, and then, like carve light and shit. You can learn the tricks of the other side, the left-hand path. As far as like different aliens and shit, channeling aliens and shit was Tavistock and shit. Aleister Crowley. I will tell you something. Captain Hook is an aspect of the 357 Fibonacci sequence. And Captain Hook translated over to the Candyman. Candyman, they say he was an escaped slave, you know what I mean? He lived in Cabrini Green. But that's Horus. Horus is an aspect of the Candyman, and Captain Morgan, Jack Sparrow. He's like 6 eyes and shit on Jack Sparrow. He can pop up with 6 eyes and shit. Like, they're getting this shit from the South American slave trade, the Paulo Mayombe. And I remember a documentary about a rash of murders in the early 90s. And they kept coming around to how these serial killers were jockeying for power, or they were trolling for some power jockeys, and I'm like, who's trying to bring back experimentalism, the Finders, a cult that can't account for how many children that was given over to, you know what I mean? Like a school for the gifted, talented, high IQ, and they would subject themselves to deprivation and starvation. And it was like when they found them, they were like, why are these like wearing straps and sackcloth? Why do these kids look like beat up and hungry? And it was like, oh, they're in a school for special gifted children, and they're taking part of some experiments and shit. Oh, okay. So, Candyman with the bees and the honey and shit. Because Horus, Heru, A Tale of Two Brothers, Horus on the Horizon, is the third eye, the inner ear. There's a 36 chambers, so there's 72. 7-Eleven, thank God it's 7-Eleven. Thank heaven or whatever. Because it was like there's a part right in the middle of the brain it's not in the middle of the brain. It is behind the brain. It's like somewhere back there, but it's in between both of them, and it's the eye of Ra. Horus and Heru, the highest flying bird, falcon, top of the totem, the thunder dog, the Heru bird, like it's a chakral thing. So it's like they're making the connection back to Kronos, and that's why they're I would consider retarded. Like why do they able to contact Horus but do it in the wrong way? And then when he announced himself as Horus under the alias, because they were channeling ancient Sumerian, or not Sumerian, ancient Egyptian deities through an alias, and they would he contacted him as Lamb, right, and he depicted him as a gray alien, right. Then in the binding ritual, they tried to bind him, right, and he escaped the binding ritual under another alias that was Iwas, and converted Aleister Crowley's OTO into scribes of Iwas. They would be stewards and work for the energy, right? They would work for Horus, and Horus's poems was what was luring those blonde women into Cabrini Green to get slain by Captain Hook, and the bees and everything. You know what I mean? It was scary as Imhotep. So look, why they tell us this shit? And then they don't want to act like they don't know anything. I'm not talking about average white people. The white people don't exist. Who am I talking about? It's a corporate hegemon. They have warlocks and shit. They look at these working with Anunnaki, right? Work with them to get the experimentalism back to permeating society, to spike cortisol in order to harvest the people's energy faster. Cortisol kills you faster, you give up your energy faster too. You know, like an unbalanced cortisol, you can measure, going around with the US Geological Survey and the Census Bureau or something, measure cortisol and put it on the map. And like all these places, cortisol are mapped out. Okay. In Europe, it's a reductive reasoning, which could be measured as, and it's by way of, or outcome by way of galvanization for polarization. You're being galvanized to be polarized, to be attracted to one of two fields that are both arbitrary, and it's like cortisol you don't regulate. Without balanced cortisol, you can't regulate stress, and it tears down your body. You know what I mean? The emotions and shit. That's another thing. There's another kind of alien that actually and just encourages you to create emotions and doesn't care what kind they are, and then filters them all through the unknown, which is a question. It's a question mark placed in your head by the structure placed in front of you of a pyramid. So you could say that the emotions are being filtered through the pyramid, and then that way they'll be able to become a substrate for a morphology on a distant planet with a dense gravitation. It's like a dense, it's a mushroom planet, and they have giant mushrooms and little people, right? But the mushrooms get your filtered emotions, and then they eat the mushrooms. So, but they have a matriarchy, what tall white aliens. They have a matriarchy, and it's like a someone that was a human at one point in time, right? Oh, shit, hold on, I'm gonna get it. Her name's Lucretia. She was a human at one point in time, right? And just like technology, you talk about like Terminator and shit, and Skynet going back in time to work on the hand and shit. They're here making this black goo, and she's gonna extract it after the humans make it. They're attracted to wherever it is. It's a valuable substance, but they need humans to make it because we go into intolerable resonating fields that they can't stand. They have to travel through portals to sometimes work with humans to engineer this shit, and they have a civil war where they booby trap their own portals. So some of them, they hide their portals out in the woods. You have to look at this guy called Rudolph of Germany, who claims to be a tall white alien. So I mean, you want to know sources and shit like that. Science is initiated in the imagination and only ever drops in fantasy. That's why you can say that in the fantasy science fiction and horror science fiction that they brought technology from that shit to come. It always seems to like come relevant, like we're being. And then you get the concept of a little bit from there of predictive programming. But programming and indoctrination is something like I can't peel back all my indoctrination, because then it should be impossible for you to equate using a remote control to press pause and play and those, because the buttons that are telling you what that function does is just another level of superficial symbolism that's been marketed to your subconscious build out. So we're getting back to remember what we were doing before that, you know what I mean? Because there's other lighting systems and chakra systems, which are lighting systems, you know? And look at some of the hieroglyphs shows ancient Nubians dragging a light, like a cord, a glowing cord with a bulb on the end, and it looked like orgone. So it's like the simulating the light of the world, like the orgone around a sperm cell. Like, and you might think that that's like kink freaky or something, but you have to think that we're like scholarly and kink and erotic back then. That's what's different about the pre-Diluvian, is that there can exist pre-Diluvian with dynastic virtues in the same society. However, we have both of them in a human, and a human are both there. The dynastic Arcturian enclave society, modalis, grain seed storage, animal husbandry, metallurgy, all that shit, that's that's there. And then also the prior to determinism, where the land prevail and there and everything is provided, God provide. You have a different type of, like, you have still like you have a bardello thing still going on, right? They still drank, they still got drunk, but there were a warrior class of scholars that were erotic, they were kinky. I don't know what to say. Like, they might kill someone for impregnating somebody, but they would all get around and do orgies and shit, you know. And it's like there was another level in college and university. University, where you have to imagine, like, it's like advanced orgy, like it's like something that attracted people to want to go there in the first place. And so, like, they were training their body in sports and everything, like training their body, fitness, everything, getting them ready for academics to come after knocking each other up. Go figure. There was a symbol of a statue that was like both gesturing, elevating human conscious level, and had an erect phallus. You had a hard dick, had to come to school with. Okay, I need to chill out, because it's like it blew my mind for years, right? But something you gotta know: people can be now, because of a new phenomenon, which is bigotry. You can consider someone racist, but there's no way a human has anything to do, because their motivation is not in line with something that we were left behind, or the architect fell asleep. So we can unplug our modalities. You can unplug it. That takes the whole liberal arts and everything to do it, right? The whole trying to become autonomous. The reason somebody might go on a quest for knowledge, like a thirst for knowledge, you're never going to do it. Ultimately, it's like you're not going to get it. Your pineal gland can't open because it's 20 times denser than a plant. You just have a chromosome that expresses itself as a gene that acts like a plant, and like a lotus blossom, right? When you decalcify your pineal gland or something, right? It gets active and everything, right? It wants more of that. It wants to be more, like, you have to want to do something more to, and then what's it called? It goes toward crystallization of coming a pillar of salt is a possible outcome that you would want, right? It won't open like a blossom, like a lotus, right? And it's weird they had this pine cone thing all around the Vatican and shit, you know. Like, it's analogous of that, or emblematic. Sorry, it's emblematic of that. And see, I use fucking wrong words sometimes. And they worship Black Mary, you know, like in the Dravidian Hindu Kush, they have these menstrual deities, Damu, like Damu. What's happening in Damu? You wonder why they say Damu's red and shit. And it's part of the Hegelian, it's like syncretized into the Hegelian dialectic, red against blue, you know. You can use it in a creative way. It's promotive that you're not wrong, but then there's other ways that it's used in Hegelian dialectic against us. Like, I've seen somebody went to use a backdrop of red light on one side versus a backdrop of blue light, and it came together, it converged so that half of his face is blue and half of his face is red all the time. Like, that's cool. You could do that. But yeah, otherwise it's kind of like a base conscious ritual apprehension of collective psyche, to fucking apprehend it, to fucking wield it, and you try to captivate the modality, because the rift or the schism in aristocracy, they cannot be reached gratification. They're trying to bring in a new era of austerity, and they're trying to use Confucius society to do it, since we cannot rot in or reign in a new era of austerity after having become esoteric. And we became esoteric in order to understand how Wicca is Wicca. Because, like, some people, you know, that were Wicca found out what Wicca really meant while they were Wiccan. You know what I mean? And it does tie in with the how you make baskets, Wicca, the straw and everything. But then it tied into some about how the Spartans were created, and in other areas of the world too. They've done similar strategies where a class of outcasts had become useful, convenient to bulwark for entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs have soft hands and they won't bulwark for state power. And entrepreneur has the word entropy in it too. You have to be entropy to be an entrepreneur. So you have to look into all this shit. The Wicca and the Gala, gay. The word gay didn't come from a word for happy. It came from the word gala. And you know, the gala is those dinners at $15,000 a plate. You know, so but it comes from and they have gala apples, right? Aren't you glad you didn't raised on an apple farm? You would be a psychotic maniacal killer, right? But what's an apple with a bite missing? You know, it's like also, what is a Mac? Well, I guess I'll get to that later. It's just like there's some shit going on. Oh my God, this is psyche. Okay, I lost my place. So I mean, there's been protected class, but then even unprotected class too. So I said that's where I gotta be, you know, because it's like how, you know what I mean. And then when I break it down, you know, then it'll make sense. But just to say I'm a protected class, I'm like, what are you talking about? What, don't you know where you came from and everything like that? No, you don't understand. It's why you're a protected class too. I've been trying to figure that out with this shadow banning algorithm. I study things in ways. There's different ways to study than reading the book. Right. I guess if I can't get back to where I started this video talking about, something just inspired me to go off in a different direction. Okay, well, let me just finish about the Gala and Wicca and shit, right? Because Wicca doesn't just apply to, like, Dravidian, not Dravidian druids, not Dravidians, but the druids. The druids, shit, yeah. There's this other thing going on with the Parthenon too. Because you get parthenogenetic replication from Parthenon. You know, man is like a processor or like a computer. He's like a processor that goes along with an assisting in like an AI or something. But he's a replicator. We make replicators. Your parents try to keep you away from bad influences because they want you to replicate what you want to replicate when you're fit and ready and defensible and wise enough to replicate what a man's supposed to replicate, like characters. You have to take energy and turn it into characters that reflect the significance of gestures and shit like this. Damn, everywhere I think is gonna be rabbit holes. I can't even finish one direction, and then I can't get back either too. That's the thing about rabbit holes, is you can't get back. It would be right for Pixar by the time I finish everything. So maybe it's mercy that I don't finish everything. Like, you know, it's like people want to know where aliens come in and what are you talking about? That, you know what I'm saying? But I have to make you see the aliens. I have to make you see the ships. or you know what I mean, or I have to figure out a faster way to have get my points in, you know. Because you could say that some of that is witchcraft. Yeah, witchcraft, aliens, some of that should be related because of the manipulating with cortisol. I just told you there were witches. And it's not sinister, depraved indifference is sinister, but it's not motivation. So it's, you know what I mean, it's like a, because the earth has Kundalini too. So. You know, like, and then there's these concepts that, like, you know, these new designer like shit that we never really had no need for, but aided by or facilitated by the advancement of science. We have these concept terminologies that don't mean shit for us. What are you worried about concerning yourself with junk DNA for? There's like appendix or something, we want to remove it or something. You know, abatement or something like that. You know, and then if you see that's twisted around and you're like, oh, let me reverse that, and you're gonna find that it's going against the grain. It's better off that only you know, maybe this is too precious to share with anyone who wouldn't let you build a conveyance. Like, this is just allowing you to speak to a process or a concept or a progress or an idea, or speak to, or sometimes you just have to ask what something speaks to. Like, you come into like, what's that speak to? And you catch yourself and you're like, orthodox people don't necessarily expect you to have address any thing other than like like the person, the individual, but they don't want you to talk at them. They want you to spend your time addressing something that speaks to something I resonate with. Yeah, just kind of taking my time. But I might just have to get back to, it has to be a patchwork. It has to be a patchwork because I'm seeing something that I can't pin it down. And I had to come from different areas of thought and kind of like matriculate, kind of like water finds pathways and things. If you're looking for a way, because there's no path and there's no way. So like water will find the lowest, and you see where the lowest, you know, unless it's a hermetic seal. A hermetic seal could keep water suspended, right? Theoretically. But it's going to find the lowest point. It's going to find the lowest point. That's one of the things that it can do. Now, is it also suspended by, it's like in a vault of frequency, part of the ecology. So as far as your senses can extend, it's codified by something that's resplendent or throughout, right? You came here to witness scale and immensity. So your father has to blow a balloon, you know, and that's like, to a baby, that's like, wow, right? Like, you see why I can't make videos. It's like, there's something I see, but I can't get there. So I wanted to bring it here like a vision or something, but it's already here too. It's already here too. I'm just like trying to be indicative of something that might bring back a whole realization thing, you know? This is too much. It's too much for media. Let me stop saying all that.